Hi, it's Jennifer Henry, your host for the Game Changer Real Estate Podcast. I get to do my favorite thing, which is interview awesome, cool people on this episode. And if you listened to my last episode, you already heard how I introduced this awesome, amazing woman. This is Monica Baker joining us today. She is someone who, when I thought about who I would interview, is the first person to come to mind because she lives this out loud. And she is just an amazing colleague. I've worked with her in the past and we were instant friends. And it's because we align in a lot of ways around the topic of discussion on this next few episodes, which is all about wellness in real estate. So before I get into all of that, I would love to introduce Monica Baker to the scene. Monica, go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners.
Awesome. Oh, yay. Thank you, Jen, so much for that. Yes, this is a topic close to my heart. I've been in real estate now for about 6 years in the Nashville market, which, if you know anything about national real estate markets, has been very hot the whole time I've been here. I was a top producing agent, and then I became a sales leader, sales director on a large team locally, and then just moved into coaching from there, always with a wellness, doing this for yourself mentality versus a hustle, go mentality.
Yeah. And that's why I love you.
Yeah. Thanks.
And I interviewed you to come on board with the locker room.
Yep.
A good year or two.
Yeah. Just a little over a year ago.
Okay. I couldn't remember. Yeah, you're right. Because we did that a big event together. That's right.
Yep.
And when we met, I remember really resonating that your approach to business. And I think it's important that a lot of women and realtors and, generally speaking, business owners hear this from not just me and my soapbox, but from other people like you who have been in business and who understand the toll that it takes. So let's just start with what have you seen and what have you experienced in the real estate realm when it comes to stress and just the lack of wellness that people experience as a whole?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times we think that the more we do, the more we get, right? So the more people we talk to, the more leads we pull in, the more doors we knock, the more open houses we do, more always equals more. And there's a math to that. There's a reason that we think that. And there's a point at which we hit diminishing returns. Especially if you're constantly showing up in poor energy because you're exhausted, because you keep talking to strangers and your particular strength is not talking to strangers. You can probably do it for a while, but then if you keep showing up like that, then you're depleted and you're not coming across as your best self anyway. So eventually the things that we do, that we say, this is how you get business, eventually even those don't work because you're not coming at it from the right energy. So
that's great. Diminishing returns on energy. I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it.
Yeah.
How have you experienced that? What has it done? Or how did you even figure this out?
Okay. So I got into real estate and I was already into health and wellness. I wanted to be a spiritual life coach leading into that. I'm so grateful that first foray into that did not work out for me because I needed the last 6 years in real estate to really round out who I am and who I'm talking to. But so I came into real estate with that mindset, but I landed on a very hustle team, a large team, a prominent team. Everybody knows us in Nashville, like all of those things. And so hustle culture it was fast. I also had 3 young boys. I was getting married, but forget work. I also just had a big, full life that I had to manage. And what I realized, I spent a year and a half, I had moderate success. Looking back, it was a really killer first year and a half. But it wasn't the rock star, superstar success that some other people had. And I spent some time in a national brokerage where we were told to be at the office every day at 8:00. We had to phone, cold call lead gen for 3 hours a day, which just did not work for me. It didn't work for my lifestyle. It also didn't work for my personality. So during that 6 months, I worked harder than I've ever worked ever and had the least amount of financial success I'd ever had. I sold plenty of homes, and that's a whole thing about how real estate works with commissions, but I had success in that I had clients, But my marriage almost fell, my new marriage of like 4 months almost fell apart. Our finances fell apart. My mental health fell apart. My physical health fell apart, and all within a matter of 6 months because I insisted on doing it a way that didn't align with me. So I ended up back on my original team, and there was just this magic moment where it all started working. And I would literally be hiking and getting leads, which is how this team was set up. But I'd be hiking, talking to new clients and scheduling showings. I'd be out of town and doing listing appointments on Zoom back in 2019 when we didn't do that, y'all. So yeah. So that's when I started to understand it's not about how much you work, because I was still working 12 or 14-hour days. It's the energy with which you work that makes the difference. So as opposed, and on one hand, I could work 12, 14-hour days and be completely drained and hate every minute of it and do that over and over and over again. Or I could work 12 or 14-hour days once or twice a month, love every minute of it, and make more money than I'd ever made before. So to me, it was a huge aha of what it means to be in flow within the real estate world.
Yeah. And it's hard to do. In the last episode, I talk about the reason it's hard is because it's never done. This job, it has some limited potential. So you could be constantly working it. And there's nobody that says it's good enough, it's done, except you, except your plans, your hustle muscle tells you when you're tired. And if you've got a really strong hustle muscle, it's not going to tell you you're tired for a long time. So you obviously found your way through it, Monica. And what happened next? What decisions, what did you learn? What did you have to do at that point?
Yeah. So from there, I really learned the benefit of boundaries of like, my phone is closed to all but the most truly urgent situations. And newsflash, in case nobody in the audience understands this, there's no emergency in real estate. There really isn't. There is one time where I had to have my contract to close person on call at 6 a.m. because of a closing and mess ups. One time in 6 years that it was a truly like, it must be done right now.
Yeah.
Everything else really usually can wait. So having my phone off, doing what's fun, like just learning what is fun for me and what is not, and just insisting. Like, I don't care how many times you tell me that cold calls are going to work, I will never do them again because they're not fun for me. Yeah. Whereas I have a friend who loves cold calls and she does great with them. Mm-hmm. So I think those are two things, boundaries and fun. And if you're not having fun, why are you even doing it?
Well, I'll answer that. I think a lot of people are doing it for the money.
Yeah.
But someone who has struggled with her health and had health challenges, someone like me, someone like you, when you're faced with the end of your life because of health challenges, or you're faced with a chronic pain, or you're faced with chronic depression or disease, or whatever is happening in your world, there is no amount of money that's worth it.
And I have told people, I know there might be some in the audience who resonate with this, but I am not capable of white knuckling. And that doesn't mean that I enjoy every moment of my day, or I never have to like pep talk myself to get something done, because I do, of course. But if that's the whole of my day, maybe it's an internal thing, maybe I've built it, but I know that if I'm white knuckling every day, that we're now there's a time frame, like there's an end date somewhere coming up, because I just don't believe that we should be not entrepreneurs, right? We're not getting paid an hourly wage. We're choosing this life. So let's choose a life that brings in money, and we have fun, and we're healthy, and we have our families, because it's
fulfilling.
Yeah.
It has to be fulfilling. If you're not, go get a job.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There were many days that I felt that way of like, I can go work for somebody else and be miserable. So why am I doing this and being miserable?
That's right. And I think this is something I hope a lot of people hear, and I hope whoever's listening right now really hears us. There is a better way. Yeah. We're living proof that there's a better way. So you put up boundaries. You insisted on having fun with the things that you do. I think those are really great. You mentioned boundaries around your phone. Are there any other boundaries that you've had to put in place?
Yes. So when it comes to clients, I certainly, because I shared custody with my boy's dad. So nights that my boys were with me, I did not show to brand new clients at the last minute in the evenings. Current clients that would be fine with my boys coming, I would do that and make a big adventure out of it. but I wasn't going to leave my family for somebody that I didn't have a relationship with yet.
That's good.
Same on the weekends that they were with me. That was hard. Not showing on certain weekends was hard. And again, if it was a recurring client, like somebody I had a relationship with, we would flex. But if it's somebody new, I wasn't.
You weren't going to take that gamble on your time.
Nope, I sure wasn't. And I learned the hard way that was worth it.
Yeah, because then if you take that gamble and they end up not being your client and they end up not working with you, then you gave up that precious time for nothing.
Happened so many times before I finally learned my lesson.
I never really thought about that. I think that's really great. So some really great nuggets already. Like we already know, Monica said this, we know this, let's hear it again. There are no emergencies in real estate.
Yeah.
You know, she's talked about the energy, diminishing returns of time and energy. And I've said for years that we get paid in direct proportion to the energy we bring to the table.
That's correct.
Energy is passion. And when your passion is waning and you're literally white knuckling it using your words, you're showing up to the table with nothing to offer. Who wants to hire you? Right? Yeah. Yep. So that's great. And then we talk about the boundaries with our phones, notifications. And I know this to be true because I've texted you and it says your notifications, you're silenced. I love that. And then also choosing the clients you choose to work with based on the kind of relationship you've already established or not. So I hope those nuggets alone are worth just listening right now, folks.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no, that's great. So now let's talk about where you're at now. And I really want to hear about kind of the new decisions you're making about your life and kind of some of those.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Thanks for asking. So recently, it was in July that I had my first breathwork session. And if y'all have not done breathwork, Jen, I'll share the link with you. I still have free sessions open. So, and it cracked me open in a way that I've not experienced ever. 15 minutes and I'm seriously bawling like I've never bawled before. It was insane. And it was such an emotional release. So I know that sounds scary to some people, but also when you're carrying around weight and emotional baggage that you may or may not even acknowledge, and then you get to let it go, it's just the biggest high ever. Yeah. So I registered immediately for a certification in this breathwork process. So I'm in the middle of that certification now, and I'm seeing such amazing results bringing this to entrepreneurs as a whole and real estate agents in particular. So I had a workshop today actually with a brokerage, a local brokerage in Nashville, and just these people who spend all day on either, a lot of these were moms. So they're balancing, harmonizing real estate and their families. They're literally always on. And for 30 minutes, they got to just not be on. And there were tears, there was movement, which gets all your energy out and all of that kind of stuff. And it's really, you can come back so much more resourced. You can learn through breathwork, you learn how to resource yourself so that you are stronger with what you're here to do in this world.
Man, just hearing you talk about it makes me want to take a deep breath.
I know.
Well, I heard you say releasing emotions, and, not to get too psychological here today, and this is a real estate podcast, but it's so relevant in that is emotions can be released or they can be managed or you cope with them. So either release them or you cope with them. And so we know that when you're coping with your emotions, and in real estate, there are a lot of them.
Yep.
When you're coping with them, you're going to, if you're a human, you're likely to choose things that are going to cause you to numb out and forget. But the truth is they're still there. Yep. So when you come back into the real world and you go back to work, you're still facing them. So releasing those emotions is a really healthy way to come back a better person. So for somebody who doesn't know what breath work is, can you define that for us?
Yeah. And it's a very nebulous definition for sure. There are a lot of different methods. Essentially, our breath is the only function in our body that's both automatic and controllable. So when we know how to harness our breath to create the experience we want to create, we suddenly have a lot of power we didn't know we had. So for example, in the workshop today, I was teaching them what breath patterns to use when you need to get hyped up. Okay. So let's say you just walked out the door. I know not everybody's parents, but this is an easy one. You just walked out the door and your kid's crying and they're all like, they've destroyed the house, but you have to go do a showing, and you need to get kind of hyped up. So there's breath that you can do for that. Let's say you're way overactivated, you're anxious, you're worried, you're stressed out. There's breath you can do to help with that. And so that's just throughout the day. That's not even the sessions where you get to really dive into your consciousness and really release things that you may not even know you're holding on to.
Yeah.
So that's it's not a succinct definition. But
no, that really is. So it's really just going off the automatic breathing into controlled breathing for an intended result of release.
Yes. That's
good. Okay. Well, and I know that having done yoga and Pilates and some of these relaxation methods, because I'm a high energy, high demand person, and I have to do intentional things to bring myself down.
Yeah.
And I can drink, or I can do yoga.
Yes.
I can exercise, and I think there's a big difference. And for those of you that have followed my journey, drinking's not the option. Okay.
Right.
And so I really, and honestly, there's a lot of drinking in real estate.
Yeah.
Every single event you go to, and I'm not judging. So anybody hearing me or whatever, and you're walking up to me with a glass of wine, don't hide your glass of wine. I don't care. That's not what I'm talking about here.
I can attest that that's true. I've had a glass of wine around gym before. It's
no big deal. And I'm not saying that I don't drink. What I am saying is I am very mindful of how I cope with my stress. And I said that on my last episode. And if I recognize that I want to drink a glass of wine to de-stress, I realize it's coping. Yeah, and so for me, that's a no-no. It cannot be for that reason. So therefore, I was alluding to the fact there's a lot of drinking in real estate, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
The real estate, the office that I'm in right now, I took it over. I'm renting a space, and what used to be in here was a debt collecting office. And when they kind of abandoned the building one night in the middle of the night. So we took it over and we had to come clean out all of their things. And I'm going to tell you, I was astounded at how much alcohol I found in the drawers and everywhere hidden around this place. Astounding. And again, not being a judgy judger McJudgerton here, but I mean, they're a debt collector office. I'm sure that that's not you're in emotion. And I'm sure that you've got to go to a place to get through that. Same in real estate, same in business, same in entrepreneurship. And so we have to be mindful of that. And I just love that you are doing this, because I know when I've done yoga, I get in my car and I'm already intentionally breathing differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just an intentional breathing that isn't just this shallow thing that you're doing just to get through the day.
Yes.
I love it.
So another aspect of breathwork that I'm discovering, and I really think is where the power really, really lies for entrepreneurs outside of stress and anxiety management, is we all have an inner guidance. We all have an inner voice and intuition. But especially in an industry like real estate, it's very noisy. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but there are 10 million strategies out there. There's a million ways to succeed in real estate. Yeah. And it's so easy to get shiny object syndrome of like, oh, well, somebody else succeeded at farming. Somebody else succeeded this way. I got to do all the things. And then suddenly you're paralyzed because you don't know what to do. The real way to figure out what to do is to connect with your own inner voice and learn to trust your own intuition. Breathwork helps you get the blocks out of the way. It helps you release all of the other voices so that you can actually see your way clear to the right next step for you personally.
In that moment.
And no coach, no broker, no spouse, no thing you can come up with in your mind is going to have the power as what you discover within your intuition. Yeah. But the only way to get to your intuition is to release all the other things that you're letting have tenterhooks into you. So
those are very noisy things.
Very
you mentioned if they're noisy, you've got people's opinions, you've got social media, you've got expectations, you've got goals, you've got what other people are doing. I mean, it's noisy. It's really noisy. And real estate's no exception.
I guarantee you, Jen, whoever is listening to the podcast right now, they know what to do. Yeah. Most likely.
Yes.
If they don't know what to do, they at least know where to find, like, I want to do it this way. That's not what's holding them back. Yeah. Lack of knowledge is no longer holding anybody back from anything.
That's beautiful.
Lack of faith, lack of trust, fear, anxiety, and not knowing how to hear your own voice. That's what's holding any of us back from anything we want.
That's beautiful. Beautifully said. I believe that human beings are innately very wise. And I oftentimes, when somebody comes to me, one of my agents or a coaching client comes to me and asks me what they should do, I ask them, what do you think you should do? And you hear them say, well, I'm asking you that.
Yep.
And I'll respond with, I believe you have the answer. And they'll say, I don't. And I'll say, well, if you had the answer, what would it be?
Yeah.
And there's a moment where they're like, oh, well, it would be blank, blank, blank.
Well, there you go.
Your answer. It's like, we just have to trust. Yep. We got it. We got this, right?
Yep.
And breathwork helps you.
And occasionally there might be some technicality that you don't know.
Sure.
Where expertise can help you. But I guarantee you that's not the same thing as not knowing which step to take. You know which step to take. You just have to trust yourself.
Beautifully said. And a lot of this is about being well. So being well helps you hear this better, whether it's breath work, whether it's yoga, whether it's more exercise, whether it's better nutrition, whether it's getting involved in a community or church or some kind of nurturing environment, or it's choosing a brokerage that has a culture devoted to their agents' wellness. Game Changer Realty is that. And that's what we do here. I mean, honestly, you can ask any one of my agents. And when they come to me in stress mode, my first response is, we got to get this under control, because there is no transaction. There is no lead generation strategy. There is nothing worth your health.
Yep.
And I don't want to answer to your family when something happens to you. Like, none of us want to answer to that. So let's make the right decisions in the moment that we can later on answer to and say, I made that decision. And I'm okay with that decision. I would rather be in charge of that than that being in charge of me.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
yes.
We could talk all day long about this, me and you.
Yes, we have.
Yes, we actually have. Yes. Well, you are living proof, Monica, of what's possible when someone takes a radical and ruthless demand and stand and insistence for their life. Anyone listening here today can use Monica as an example of what it looks like to pursue your passion, and doing so, making family a priority, making your health a priority, and ultimately business will line up for that. I mean, it's really about having the faith that is true and trust the process throughout. So is there anything else in your heart burning that you want to share with our audience today?
No, I think the realization that you have the answer that you need, and just getting to that first step of trust. I know it's scary. I know it's scary, but once you learn it the first time, you can never, that's why I'm not capable of white knuckling. I've seen it happen. And so if I'm working too hard, I know that it's time to figure out something new.
Yeah. And then my last episode, I said, if something is causing chronic stress, either I need to change the circumstance or I need to let it go.
Yeah.
And you said this too, you can do it with a deadline.
Yeah.
There's a short time frame that you can white knuckle it. And I'm a big believer in that. I'm in the process of a white knuckle right now. I'm actually moving into the office I mentioned. And this is a week-long, 8 to 8, every day, kind of going a little crazy, but I would not do this every week. This is a short game for me. The long game is the sustainable lifestyle that's fulfilling and for me, and ultimately allows me to serve better.
We can also talk about working with your cycles, but that's a whole other podcast. So
yeah. Okay. So we need to come back for that one.
Absolutely.
You mean like seasons, like the seasons?
Well, and for women, and I know this is a co-ed podcast, but for women, I do actually mean literally working with your cycle.
Oh, yeah. You and I've talked about this.
Yeah.
We talked about the soccer team.
The power of working with your cycle is beyond all belief. Like, I have been healthier and more productive in the last 6 months of learning to work with the natural rhythms that my body has, versus trying to say like masculine, men literally, and this is not saying masculine, feminine, better or worse. Men literally have a 24-hour cycle. Women have a 28-day cycle. So if you learn how to organize your life so that you're actually honoring that cycle, instead of saying, oh, I have to push through this week, which is the worst week for me to push through. If you can learn how to organize your life around that, then it's literally a game changer.
Game changer.
Game changer.
Yeah, I love it. I love it when people say that. They always stop and kind of go, because I'm like, yeah, I don't own that phrase, but kind of do. Yeah. Well, I love that. And sorry, dudes, for those of you that don't have a 28-day cycle, you're on your own. No, we're kidding. There's a way. Guys, again, we go back to listen to yourselves. Just
Yeah,
listen.
absolutely.
What is your body saying? What is your body saying to you? You need today. Do that.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Well, this has been wonderful. I love talking to you and sharing in this energy. You've energized me today on this podcast. Yeah, it's late in the afternoon, so usually I show up a little bit less energetic at this time of day, but you've given me another burst to get through the rest of this day. So thank you for that, Monica. Tell our audience where they could find you and any kind of special offers you might have. Please share.
Yeah, so the easiest place to find me is over on Instagram, _Monica Baker. And right now I have free breathwork sessions available for the next 2 months. So you'll find my link there on my Instagram to book with me for that. And then also, oh, fun, Jen, when this comes out, I will have released my mentorship program. So I am looking for specifically female entrepreneurs to focus on mentoring you in how to move your life from where it is to where we're talking about working in this energetic space, working with flow versus with hustle. And it's one thing to hear it said, it's another thing to figure out how you make it work with your life. So I am opening up some mentorship not positions. I have some mentorship openings
Okay. Yeah,
to work with women and to help them figure out how to make that happen. So that will also be on my Instagram.
You know, that's so great because we see all these ideals and all these perfect scenarios of what we could do, but it's practically speaking, how do we get there, right? That's awesome. Any ladies listening? It's for women only.
This is probably best suited for women. Men, if you are interested, reach out. I would love to chat with you.
Yeah, we don't want to leave the dudes out.
No, never.
This is a strong female dominated industry. I have a few guys at my brokerage. I love working with the guys and they do have a completely different approach. So I love to see both, but ladies are people listening today, take advantage, get into Monica's world, take advantage of what she has to offer now before she gets too expensive, because she's going to be something big the more she grows into her passion. I'm watching it happen before my very eyes. And you also have a podcast. You want to tell our audience about your podcast?
I do, yes. And they can come and listen to your episode as well. But you can find that. You'll also find the link for that on my Instagram. It's called This Wild and Crazy Life with Monica Baker. And I talk to people who do all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, every week on Wednesdays. So you'll see it there on my Instagram as well.
Perfect. Well, it has been fun. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me this afternoon and pouring into our audience. Thank you so much. Love you. Can't wait to see where you're headed next. And thank you again, Monica.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jen.
So guys, thanks for listening. You know, come back every Tuesday. We have another interview next week. We'll be interviewing the wonderful and amazing Ruben Garcia, who knows a thing or two about this whole work-life balance thing. He's coming at it from a dude's approach. So for those guys that feel a little bit left out, you're going to enjoy Ruben's approach. It is no nonsense. It is cool. He does it with such grace and a way that makes you feel like you're his best friend. So please come back and hear us next week. And again, Monica, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen.
We're signing out. We'll see you guys next time.